And so I just wanted to reassure her that we will not be, as long as Luke is wearing tight leather pants and he and Rachael are still getting the ride frequently, then I'll be fine with whatever time frame. If she needs to like fake the timelines, that's totally fine.
So that's our show. And we are just three podcasters talking to the audience, asking for you that if you like any of these and want to, fuck that. All right. Sorry. I was trying to do this whole thing.
I know what you're trying to do. I love it.
You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join three book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.
I have that, but I haven't read it yet.
Wow, it never has asked for my consent before.
Right? I've never had to click that. It's like, yeah. I mean, fine. I'll keep going.
Everyone, you've just witnessed our surprise Zoom update and we like it. We're all in favor.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Julia.
I'm Rachael.
And I'm Kelly.
And this is What You Should Read,
the podcast where we should all over our books.
How is everyone's weekend going?
Well,
oh no, have you been working all weekend again?
No, I actually had the weekend off. I actually had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. But I woke up this morning and decided to check my work emails just to kind of know what was going on. And yeah, it's not pretty. So that was a mistake.
Yeah. What your first mistake was checking the email. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, can't go back and change it. So
yeah. What about you, Kelly?
Really good so far, except it's kind of almost over and it's hot here.
I know. Yeah. I mean, we had friends over yesterday. They were visiting from Denver. So it's like the first time in a long time we've seen them, but also the first time in a long time we've had a group of people in the house and didn't feel like we had to stay outside because everyone's vaccinated. And so they came over with their 1-year-old baby who I hadn't met yet. Oh. I got to hold the baby for so long. And she really took to me at the end and was just sort of laying on me, like kids do. And I was reading her a book. I gave her the Champ and Major Biden book.
Aww.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, it was so nice and just also surreal to be like, wow, we just spent 6 hours inside, just hanging out, eating and laughing and reminiscing, things we used to take for granted, you know. And I was like, this is amazing. This is life.
That's great.
Yeah.
But I've noticed, and I don't know if this is true for you guys, but things that normally would not be a big deal, like, oh, I ate in a restaurant and I spent time with people. I am so tired after doing that stuff now. It's like, oh, wow, I did what I would normally do on a Saturday. And now I'm like, I need to sleep for an extra 5 hours. Just...
It does take some getting used. I think I was more anxious before they came over because I was like, do I remember how to host people? I actually pride myself on being a really good host, and thank you. But I was like, wait, what do I do? And so we were cleaning and just getting stuff ready. And I was like, okay, I think I remember how to do this. And then the day itself was fine. And I'm an extrovert. So for me, I wasn't tired after. I was like, yeah, that was great. But it is interesting. And it wasn't even a big group. I mean, there was 7 of us total. 6 of us total. So not that many people. But just our, improv group that used to hang out all the time. So anyway, it was cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, on to our episode. It's Rachel's Wheelhouse episode today. We're going to be discussing British rom-coms. I cannot wait to get some recommendations for this. But first, Kelly, what are you reading this week?
I am reading Hour of the Witch by Chris Bohjalian, the last of my May anticipated books. I'm almost done. It's so good. It is really a miracle that I did not get in trouble for spending all work week reading it, because that is all I've wanted to do. It is so good.
Nice.
Oh, that's the best feeling when you're so into a book and you just want to read it all the time and you can't because you're an adult with responsibilities, but
It's so good though. And I'm finally almost done with the John Green audiobook as well. So I need to pick my second audio read.
Right.
And I think it might be Juneteenth because that's about to be seasonally appropriate.
Yes, true. Rachel, what are you reading this week?
I am reading our book club book, Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. And I have it right here, my book of the month version. I'm almost halfway through. I'm like 130 pages. It's kind of like really sad underneath. But like I love sad books, so that's fine. But it's also like really funny and hopeful, and like you're just rooting for everybody. You're like, I want good things for you. So I like that.
Would you classify it as romance or contemporary fiction?
Contemporary fiction.
Yeah. I think it was under the banner of romance on the Book of the Month website. And I remember seeing a lot of people being like, I don't know if I would, like, there is a romance aspect to it, but I don't know that I would say it's a romance.
Right. There's like a love story, I think. Right. So far, it seems like it's going to end up as a love story. I don't know the ending yet, but yeah, I wouldn't, unless there's some like steamy scenes coming up that I don't know about, I wouldn't classify it as a romance genre at this point. I would more classify it as contemporary. Although like we know that the lines between like rom-com and romance have started to blur a little bit. So
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely not tell people like, oh, if you like a good romance, read this. It's it's contemporary fiction with a really great love story.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And nothing. I mean, we love romance on this podcast.
Yeah.
Like trying to classify it. Well, I am reading Stacey Abrams' While Justice Sleeps, her political thriller. Okay, so Kelly, a few weeks ago, I think you said that you were feeling like you were reading like me, like you were reading short stories and an audiobook, and you're like, this is a very Julia reading. Like, I feel like I'm reading like Kelly this week because I have 2 thrillers going. So
exciting.
I know. And so the While Justice Sleeps is Stacey Abrams' new political thriller. And I am about halfway through that. I am really enjoying it. I do think I enjoy political thrillers, maybe a little bit more than like a domestic thriller, say, because I'm enjoying like the political machine that's being described in the background. It is super plot heavy. And I do would kind of wish it was a little bit more character based in some ways, but there's just so much going on. She wouldn't have time to really like do like everything. But I am just like super impressed that Stacey Abrams can write this great book and also save democracy at the same time. I don't know how she did that. So.
I mean, she might have cloned herself.
Yeah, I know.
Nice.
Or she might have just figured out how to never sleep.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure she doesn't get that much sleep and probably is the kind of person who doesn't need that much. Or she gets a full 8 hours and that is like why she's like rested and ready to go every day. I don't know. She's amazing. And then my audiobook is They Never Learn by Layne Fargo, which is a thriller that's good for her. It's about a college professor who kills the worst man on campus every year. And it's things I like about it are its dual POVs. I like that bad men are getting killed, and she kills like rapists and people who are like doing really bad things. And she like carefully selects her victims. So, but it is a thriller and it's just not my genre normally. So it is taking me a little bit longer to get through it, I think. And also, but it's an audiobook, but I find myself wanting to like listen to my podcast instead of listening to my book. So but I'm glad I'm reading it. It is definitely like giving me those good for her vibes. So I think it was a good recommendation, but yeah, it's an interesting reading week for me. I'm like, I'm not a thrillers person. All I'm reading right now are thrillers. I definitely don't think I'm going to turn into like a person who constantly reads thrillers now, but I'm glad I've like tried these 2 for sure.
So really fun book news this week.
Yes.
First, and this one is a surprise, I just saw that I'm really glad you're liking While Justice Sleeps, because she's going to be doing 2 more of them. She has a book deal now for 2 more political thrillers with this character.
Awesome.
So yes, it is going to be at least a trilogy.
Well, and what I meant to also mention, like we mentioned, I think last week, this is going to be a Netflix show. I think Shonda Rhimes, I think Shondaland is doing the adaptation. It will be a great TV show. Like, as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, this will be it'll translate so well to the screen. So that's exciting that there's going to be like more story to come.
Yeah.
More seasons.
Yeah.
So also though, it turns out that John Steinbeck has written an unpublished novel that has been found, and it's a werewolf murder mystery.
So strange.
I don't understand it. I'm not entirely sure it's not a poorly timed April Fool's Day prank, but I also really want to read it right now.
Yeah. When you sent us this story, I did think it was I was like, this has got to be a joke, right? Like John Steinbeck wrote a werewolf murder mystery. I mean, this is a man who wrote Great Depression novels, right?
Yeah, I spent a not small chunk of time trying to come up with a good pun, like Silver Bullets of Wrath, of Mice and Werewolves. It's hard. So if you guys have one, the Red Werewolf.
No, I might just consult the experts on Twitter at making puns, because there are a lot.
Feast of Feedin'.
Yeah. See, there you go.
Feast and Feedin'.
Nice. They should have just asked you.
Awesome.
So it's funny, in the article, it also says he wrote it under a pen name, Peter Pym.
What?
Or Peter Pym. PYM was the
God.
So it's like, clearly he knew this. He's like, this is not what I want to be known for. But I feel like in my head canon of like why he wrote this book, it's like his like dirty little secret, like his guilty pleasures. Like he loves reading these like penny novels, he probably like loved reading like those kind of like things as a kid, and he's like, I'm gonna write this.
Yeah.
I really want to read it.
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, I probably will read it if it gets published.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be somewhere, right? Like somebody is gonna have to release this.
Yeah, I would agree.
And finally, Marion Keys has announced a sequel to Rachel's Holiday, which we are very, very excited to read the very second we can. But what's even more exciting than that is that, according to Marion Keys's own Twitter, she loves Julia.
She loves me.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you. So what happened was Marion Keys, who I follow on Twitter, of course, she posted a poll on Twitter, and the poll question was, if you've read Rachel's Holiday, without checking, could you say when it was published? And the options were like, of course I can, or I haven't a clue, or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, oh, like 1998, like I knew immediately, because I'm obsessed with Marion Keys and I love all her books, and I already knew that. And as soon as I had heard about the sequel, I looked everything up about the first book, just to like remind myself, because I've read it like 3 times, but it's been a while. But anyway, I knew. So I said, of course I can. But I also knew why she was asking. Like, I just feel like I'm connected to her. So I knew exactly why she was asking. I knew she would be worried because she needs to mess with the timeline a little bit, because she's writing it so much later. And she probably wants to pick up not long after the first book left off, but she probably also wants the book to be a little bit more modern, Right. So I was like, she's probably worried that her fans are going to be upset by that. And so I just wanted to reassure her that we will not be, as long as Luke is wearing tight leather pants and he and Rachel are still getting the ride frequently, then I'll be fine with whatever time frame. If she needs to like fake the timelines, that's totally fine. So I wrote something to that effect. I was like, don't worry about it, we'll be fine. And she wrote back saying, this is the nicest thing you could have said. I love you. Thank you. So I'm glad to hear that I like reassured her, and everyone was commenting like, we agree. Don't worry about it.
Aww.
Yeah, so Marion Keys, I love you too, obviously, and I'd love to have you on the podcast anytime.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to read the sequel. I am so excited.
Me
So
too.
great. I love it.
He's my favorite author of all time. So
yeah. I think I still find her books randomly around mom and dad's house when I'm over there.
oh, I know. I think I have like several copies of all of them.
Yeah.
And I've been buying her new covered ones because the new covers are so cute. She got like a new cover designer, and so yeah. Anyway,
Nice. All right. So we want to acknowledge with our new segment, Book Birthday. We want to wish a happy book birthday to Julie Murphy for her book Pumpkin, which is the third and final installment in the Dumpling series. She actually posted something really sweet on Twitter or Instagram yesterday about being like sad that the series was ending, but so excited for the book to come out. She was like, you know, all teary and stuff. She's so sweet. But yes, today, which is May 25th, Tuesday, the day this episode drops, is Pumpkin's book birthday. So I've already pre-ordered mine. And yeah, we just want to wish a happy book birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
I've already read it and it's wonderful, and maybe there will be a fourth book sometime, maybe down the line a little bit.
She did seem quite sad about ending the series, so maybe she will revisit. Maybe like a time jump for, you know, revisit Dumpling, or like go back to that small town in Texas like 10 years later with new characters. Who knows?
Yeah.
So
we waited years for this Rachel's Holiday series, or sequel. I got time. So
exactly. Yeah, you never know.
Love it.
Yeah. And then finally, before we break for our main segment, a quick round of recent acquisitions. Kelly, what have you recently acquired?
Oh, God. Well, a quick round. So I got Off the Record by Camryn Garrett, which looks amazing, and not unlike Grown by Tiffany Jackson, which I loved. Shipped by Meredith Tate, which looks to be a fun love story centering around fandom, which is a thing I always go for. It Goes Like This by Miel Moreland and Some Girls Do by Jennifer Dugan, both YA contemporary, and I'm excited for all of those, and I'm very happy we have a 3-day weekend coming up.
Amazing.
Good. Julia, what about you?
I just have one today. So I got in the mail an arc of It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, which Kelly has read, and it's the Schitt's Creek inspired rom-com. And we're hoping we can have Tessa on the podcast soon. And I'm excited to read this. It looks really cute and fun. And I love Schitt's Creek. So, and it has a lighthouse on the cover. I didn't know it was set at a place with a lighthouse, which is very exciting. And the man is dressed like a fisherman or something. And it looks very hot. I'm excited.
Yes, that is also my recent acquisition. I got the same proof copy in the mail, and I can't wait. I love it.
Okay, we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to get some recommendations from Rachael. It's her wheelhouse episode, British rom-coms. We're so excited. And I think we'll have a lot of good recommendations in this episode. So stick around and we'll be right back.
Mm-hmm.
And we are back. And today we are talking British rom-coms, which is a Rachael wheelhouse episode. So with these wheelhouse episodes are where we do a deep dive into a category of books that one of us just, you know, if we hear that that's the category of book, it's like a must read or a must buy for us. Mm-hmm. So Rachael, why are British rom-coms in your wheelhouse?
Well, I read a lot of contemporary fiction, and I just love the setting of Great Britain. I just think it's always like I don't know why. I think it's the characters. I just love British people. There's just something about them that I like the humor in British, literature. I think that it just like, I guess is the type of humor that I enjoy. And I don't know why I find that like young, 20 somethings and 30 somethings living in the UK, I just really like reading stories about them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
go ahead.
well, I think just like I didn't even realize until more recently that it was part of my wheelhouse, but just when I was trying to think of what my wheelhouse was and I was thinking about the books that I really liked, like some of my favorite books are British rom-coms. So that's kind of how I came to it.
It's an interesting exercise, I think, to kind of sit down and write out like what your wheelhouse is. And I agree. There are some things that like short story collections, I only realized in the last couple of years, like, oh, that is in my wheelhouse. But I think it's good to, the more you read and the more you kind of are a more discerning reader, it's fun to figure out what it is you like about your favorite books and try to find that in other books too. So I think that can really improve your experience as a reader too, because then if you know what you like, then you'll less likely be disappointed by something.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So sorry, our friend Kathy, who has come on the pod a couple times, every year she does a pop culture challenge, and I have a point for this. And this coming year, she's going to do graphic novels, and what she's doing is asking people to tell her graphic novels that are still in her wheelhouse. So like a true crime graphic novel, for example. And I was just thinking about that because I know we also try and read outside of our comfort zone. And a really good way to do that is be like, well, here's one thing I like, maybe in a format that I'm not used to.
That's a good point.
I wonder if there are any British rom-com graphic novels. I bet there are.
I was
There
just
have to
to
be,
think
right?
of it too. That would be great. I'll have to look into that.
Okay, well, Rachel, what are some of your favorite British rom-coms and why?
Okay, so I'm going to start by, I have a few authors. I just want to talk about like the author because all of their books that I like and they're a must read author for me. So the first one being Sophie Kinsella. I love her books. So I think she's most well known for the Shopaholic series, of course. The Shopaholic series is about a girl named Becky Bloomwood, and she is a shopaholic. She cannot stop spending money on stuff, and she gets into a whole lot of scrapes because of it. And at the end of each book in the series, she kind of learns her lesson, and then the next book gets written and she forgets all of it again. And I think a lot of people get frustrated by like the fact that she never seems to learn her lesson. Not really. She just gets out of her scrapes through like help from friends and family, which is not a negative thing to get help from your friends and family, but she never actually learns her lesson in the way that changes her behavior. But I kind of like that. That's charming to me. I think that she is such a funny character, and she's the type of character that like, even when she's making tons of mistakes, I still love her and root for her because she's a sweet person. She cares so much for the people around her and she always wants to make them happy. Her way of making people happy is buying them things when they maybe don't want those things or need those things, but she thinks like that's her way of showing love. So I love those series. I think they're so charming and just so much fun. And my favorite one was the most recent one that was published, which is Christmas Shopaholic. So funny. Oh my gosh. If nothing else, read that one because it's just so good.
Sophie Kinsella is a great recommendation. And in addition to that series, I would also recommend Undomestic Goddess.
I was going to talk about that one too. Yeah,
okay.
I love it. Well, I was just going to mention it. I love the Undomestic Goddess and My Not So Perfect Life are also really good ones by her. That one's more recent.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to check that out. Yeah. The Undomestic Goddess, I remember reading it a long time ago and it stuck with me for sure. I just loved the main character so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's definitely a good one. Yeah. She is an always read author for me. If she comes out with a new book, I'll read it for sure.
I love that Becky Bloomwood is always like, she'll find something and she'll buy it and she'll be like, this is going to be an essential part of myself. Like, I will be the girl with the green scarf, or I will be the girl with whatever.
That's so true. It's like, it's more than just buying something to her. It's like, it gives her hope when she buys something. And even though it's not maybe healthy to be buying so many things, I do like that she's seeking hope and like, yeah.
And it makes her a great saleswoman. Like, she works in the Christmas Shopaholic book, she's working at her friend's like gift shop, and she makes up this whole movement. So you guys know Hygge, which is, I think, is it Norwegian?
Oh, Danish. Yeah. Hygge. Yeah.
It's like a lifestyle of like comfort and whatnot. So she comes up with like, she said, people are asking her like, oh, is this Hygge? I feel like that trend is like kind of last year. And she's like, oh no, this is Spruga. She's like, it's this like Swedish version of Hygge. And she like makes up this whole thing. So she puts together like all these displays that are centered around this made up trend called Spruga that people think is real. It's so funny. I love it.
That's really clever.
Yeah, she's so clever. So Sophie Kinsella, another author who writes British rom-coms that I will always buy and always read, is, of course, Josie Silver, who wrote One Day in December and The Two Lives of Lydia Bird. I love her books. I love them so much. I think her writing is very like real, like the human emotions, the friendships, the romances feel very real to me, even when parts of the books are maybe a little bit absurd or like speculative. The actual like human part of the story feels very real to me. And I love her writing, and I will read anything she writes.
Yeah. One Day in December was definitely like one of those books I couldn't put down. I remember a friend of mine and I went to DC for a weekend and we saw a show, and then we stayed in a hotel, and then in the morning she was still sleeping and I like woke up early so I could finish the book.
Yeah.
I love that feeling. And The Two Lives of Lydia Bird, I didn't love it as much as One Day in December, but what I did like about that was the main character had a job that I really liked. It was like she worked for like a local, like, not parks department, but like
a community center.
Yeah. And like her job was to like create events for this community center or something like that. And I was like, that's so cool. That's like just like a normal job that, I don't know. I feel like in a lot of these books, it's like, she works in publishing. And I'm like, I work in publishing too, but like, I don't know. Not everyone works in publishing that has romance.
You're like, that doesn't sound like a real job.
Yeah, some of the books where it's like she works in publishing, I'm like, does she? But okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love that she has that job in the book. I think that's really cool. I love her books. So that would be another recommendation, is anything by Josie Silver. And then another author that writes, so this kind of harkens back to our conversation a little earlier in the episode about the blurred lines between rom-com and romance. And I would definitely say this author's books qualify. It's Talia Hibbert, who writes, among other things, she writes the Brown Sisters series. So I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and I've also read
Take a Hint.
Yeah, I've also read Take a Hint, Danny Brown, which was really good. And then the third one's out and I haven't read it yet, but it's Act Your Age, Eve Brown. She also has written some other books. I read her Christmas book that was a Kobo exclusive last year, and that was really cute. It's like a novella. But yeah, her books, what I like about them is, once again, the characters just are very likable in terms of like, they're honest with themselves and others about what's going on with them. Like, they talk about their feelings and experiences. They don't like just walk around pretending to be something they're not. I love that the romances are very like hot and steamy. I think that it's great, but at the same time, they are like relationships that are developing and you're watching them grow. And I just think she writes very engaging books. Her writing is very engaging.
Awesome. I still haven't read her books all the way through. I think I started the audiobook and I got too embarrassed listening to it because it's so steamy. And I was like walking around. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm blushing.
Read Take a Hint, Danny Brown.
Okay.
You'll like that one a lot.
Okay, I will. Cool.
Yeah. So I also wanted to talk about a few books. Well, okay. So next I wanted to talk about a YA British rom-com series that I love, which is, I don't know if it's classified as rom-com, but it's YA and there's a lot of like romance in it, which is the Georgia Nicolson series, of course. Starting with Angus Thongs and Full Frontal Snogging, which is the first of 10. I think there are 10 novels in that series. It's so funny. Georgia is just quintessentially 14 years old. She is just so funny. She's such a funny protagonist. The books are all her diaries, so you're really in her head hearing her thoughts, and she makes her life sound so absurd. I love it. And you know, she's got all sorts of friendships and, you know, trying to navigate all these romances with boys, and like she gets into so many crazy escapades. It's so funny. I love it. And she just can't stop getting into trouble. I think that she is such a fun character, and Louise Rennison's books are just so funny. So definitely recommend the Georgia Nicolson series by Louise Rennison.
I remember you reading those when we were growing up, and just like you were obsessed with them. So
yeah. I don't even remember. I'm sure Mom just bought me the first book.
Yeah,
because she saw it and thought it looked funny.
Yes. Mom is so good at picking out books for us.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, for sure. So the next, I kind of want to talk about a few books that are not written by British authors, but are like set in Great Britain. So you kind of get the setting and a lot of the things I like about British rom-coms, even though it's maybe the characters aren't British. One of them being It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake. By Claire Christian, who is an Australian author, and the main character, Noni, is Australian, but she goes on a whirlwind adventure. She takes a sabbatical from work and she travels to the UK and spends most of her sabbatical in Edinburgh. And there's some like scenes in Scotland, and then she does leave the UK for a couple of like little trips to like Amsterdam and stuff. But for the most part, she's in Edinburgh, and it is so good. Very another kind of blurred lines between romance and rom-com, because there's a lot of open door romance scenes in this book. And Noni is just like, she's just on an adventure to find what makes her happy, to just like make choices based on what feels good in the moment. And that, I just love it. I just think it's so inspiring. And like, you're just watching her. And like, there are some scenes that I'm like, wow, that's not that realistic. I feel like her and some of her friends, just like and people that she just met, like just philosophizing on just like the, you know, the point of life and the meaning of and all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, okay, kind of intense. But you know, it's just, in a way, it's sort of seems unrealistic, because it's like, who really makes decisions just 100% based on what feels good in the moment? But that's the point. Like, she's like, that's the point. I've only ever like tried to make other people happy, and I've tried to like make myself small in order to fit into other people's lives. And so now I'm just making decisions for things that I want to do, and I don't care what anybody else says. And it's just such a good novel.
Oh, I love that. I want to borrow that.
Yes, yeah, you would like it.
Okay.
Also, the Reluctant Royal series that I read last year, the second one, A Duke by Default, and these are by Alyssa Cole. That one takes place in Edinburgh as well, and it's so good. It takes place in a Scottish castle, and you're just like, oh, it's so good. It's so Scottish. I love it. And again, the main character, well, it's 2 point of views, and one of them is the Scottish guy and the other is an American woman. So it is pretty, I think qualifies as British rom-com.
For sure.
And then of course, Jasmine Guillory's Royal Holiday, which again, American characters, but is set in Great Britain, and I love it.
I was just thinking of that. I was like, ooh, the second POV in that book is the handsome British guy.
And a fun Christmassy, right around Christmas when you want to read fun holiday books. And I love that the main characters are not like in their 20s, they're like in their 50s, and I love it. Yeah,
me too.
For sure. So those are like my recommendations for British rom-coms.
Amazing. I'm gonna go back to the Talia Hibbert books. I want to read those and get into them.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. And if you want to also borrow my copy of Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and see if you like it better in print, you can.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. Awesome.
I think I have them all here with me where I am.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I have the third one, Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I bought it kind of like on an impulse purchase. So I just need the Dani Brown one, and then I can just plow through the whole series.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I got the Dani Brown one from NetGalley.
Oh, okay. Those are great recommendations. I have one recommendation I would like to offer in addition, and I think this one did remind me a lot of One Day in December, and that's This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousens. And I think I've talked about this one on the podcast before, but basically the 2 main characters were born on the same day. They were both New Year's babies. And the main character, Minnie, was born like a little bit before. So the guy was born and the first New Year's baby in that hospital. So he got like all the money, like whoever is the New Year's baby in England gets like all this money and like, like press. And it's unfortunate because his family is like already super rich and her family really could have used the money. And so her mom was like really hoping that would happen. She's like, oh, it's just our luck, So they kind of grow up in the same neighborhood, but on different sides of the tracks. And they don't really meet again until they're adults, when she bumps into him at a party, and once she figures out what his name is, she's like, you stole my name. Cause her mom was going to name her, I think it was Quinn. Quinn. And his mom met her mom in the hospital and was like, that is a great name. And then named her son Quinn.
Oh my gosh.
Not only was did she get the New Year's baby, she also like gave her son Minnie's original name. So like mom was like, well, I can't name her Quinn now. Like that was stupid. So she gets the name Minnie and her last name's Cooper. So she goes through life as Minnie Cooper. And for her, New Year's is cursed. Something bad always happens on New Year's. So she bumps into Quinn. She's like, you stole my life. I should have had like your charmed life, basically. But then like, as the novel goes on, they kind of form this friendship. And then you also get these flashbacks of like times where their paths kind of crossed. And then you kind of start to see like his life maybe isn't as charmed as it seems on the surface. It's really, really cute. I loved it so much. It was very character focused. And she's a baker. She has like this pie baking company that's like gives money to charity. It's really, really cute. Yeah.
Aww. I love that. I have that book and I really want to read it.
Yeah, you'll love it. Good beach read.
Great. Does anyone have any other thoughts they want to add?
I don't, but I would second Royal Holiday, or third, I guess, Royal Holiday, because I loved that one.
Yeah. I could also say like Marion Keys is an Irish writer, but I don't think I would classify her books as British rom-coms, but they are generally funny and have romance, but they're also like, they also very much deal with mental health. But I think adjacent to this category is I would put Marion Keys.
I definitely would also, definitely like a cousin of this sort of genre. Same with Leanne Moriarty, an Australian kind of rom-com-y type stuff, but that's also has more of a serious bent to it.
Yeah, her books also delve into thriller territory at times. I
Yeah,
think.
for sure. Like
Yeah.
Big Little Lies and what was the Truly Madly Guilty?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So that is our show. If you would like to listen to any of these on audio, you can subscribe to Libro FM. If you don't already have a membership, use the promo code What You Should Read, all one word, to get 2 books for the price of 1.
Yes, and you can follow us on social media at WYSR_podcast on Instagram and on Twitter. You can email us at whatyoushouldreadpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Goodreads at What You Should Read Podcast. And, we're just 3 podcasters standing in front of the internet, asking it to, subscribe and rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, give us those 5-star ratings. And now you know what you should read.
You're welcome. I can't do accents.
You know what you should read.
It's time for What You Should Read, the podcast all about the titles you need. Join 3 book lovers and a guest as they cover all the best new titles to enjoy with your tea.